The key thing though now is making sure our culture stays in tune at all times. That's what's pushed the growth is, I got a great sales manager. I got some great people that work here. I have a lot of great people that work here, but I have people that I want to know that they can be with me for as long as possible and their potential isn't capped because of my vision. And that's become the most important thing to me.
Man, I appreciate that so much. We didn't get a chance to talk about the marketing and the numbers and all that because you're really dialed in, but this is a teaser for part 2. And, we marketing guys, we always need to leave a little bit of a teaser for the next one. So
yeah, we'll dig deep into all those numbers.
All right.
I'm excited. I like to geek out too.
All right, so that's a good segue into marketing. So I'm here with my buddy Sam Stilley, a friend and client at Amstill Roofing. This is part 2 of our Nailed It podcast discussion. We intended to talk about marketing our first time we talked a couple of weeks ago, and we ran out of time because we ended up geeking out over things like leadership and culture and team building and things like that, which is extremely fun and valuable. Time flew by. We had to cut it off because we both had meetings to go to. So this is part 2. And this is why I really wanted to have Sam on, is because Sam is one of the most marketing-minded roofing company owners I've ever met. And I got a taste of that back in December 2023 at the Best of Success conference down in Dallas, right? Dallas. And Sam was actually on the main stage giving a keynote on all of his marketing metrics, and it was extremely impressive. So I know he's open to sharing those with, different people and whatnot. I think he's going to share some of that today with us. And let's face it, guys, that's a gap that a lot of us have in our businesses. And I say us because, we're always working on it here at Contractor Dynamics. Like, how can we get more dialed in on our numbers? How can we make sure that we're tracking things better? How can we make sure we're, continually improving? One of our core values here. And Sam is really, really adept at this. So I wanted to get him on to geek out over some marketing numbers. So what's up, my man? How are you?
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the introduction. I feel like it made me sound way cooler than I am with marketing. But super, super stoked to be here. I know the first one, we spent a ton of time on it, but now not getting to the marketing stuff. So I'm excited we have a full segment now to answer questions and hopefully help out some people that listen and take some notes and apply. That's the key.
Apply. Yeah. There's that. I put this in my content once in a while because when we request information or when we hear or watch information like on YouTube or a podcast, we automatically we feel smarter. We feel like we accomplished something and we have that reward mechanism in the brain. There's smarter people out there that can probably articulate that better than I can. But we actually feel like we checked that box. Oh, I did marketing because I listened to this podcast, right? But
we don't apply it. Yeah, we're not putting it into practical use on a day-to-day basis. I have just a quick brief. I have a stack of notes. Well, it's all typed technically, so if I print it out, and it's from every speaker I've ever gone to, and it's the most influential points of their session of listening, and I put it on this master database, and I reference it occasionally, and there's a ton of great notes in there, but with no action on those items that they've shared or talked about, it's virtually worthless. I learned a long time ago that you can learn a lot of great things, but if you do nothing with them, then you just take them to the graveyard with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's dig into a couple of those things in just a minute. For those people that did not watch or listen to the first part of this podcast, which we will link below so you guys can check that out. No need to go through your whole story, but just a quick snapshot of Amstill Roofing and your role, just so people have some context here.
Sure. Yeah. I've been involved in the business for about 8 years full-time, 13 years on and off. Dad started the company in the 70s. I graduated college, went to work for a roofing company, came back, started working with him. We scaled from about $1.5 million business a year with just him, myself, and a helper to now we'll do $20 million in revenue this year. A little over 40 full-time employees, really focused on about a 95 to 96% inbound lead-based business through several different marketing streams. And we focus specifically on residential. We do have a small commercial division. And the majority of our work is retail-based.
Cool. Love that. So great snapshot, amazing growth. And so 95% of that coming inbound in a state, Texas, where, a lot of companies are out there door knocking, which is, can be tremendously effective. What was your guys' approach to that? What was your approach to saying, I want to be an inbound sort of company and not so much door knocking?
Well, I'd have to say it came with the very beginning times of the business. When I started working, at first we had no money set aside, so we were broke in the sense of business. And I remember knocking on doors just to generate leads and sales. And I very quickly realized that I had a gift at being able to sell. But as you know, if you've knocked on doors, or anyone who's listening who's knocked on doors, you could spend 7 or 8 hours and maybe get one lead. So you're spending 7 hours of time that you could be selling in a home, in theory, where you're just wasting time to generate a lead. So I figured if I could generate leads, then my time could be better spent on the appointments, and therefore I could close more. And even if there was a cost associated, then my time would be worth more selling than it would be to generate that offset of the lead originally. And once I started to figure that out and the math behind it and the scalability, I realized very quickly that I could have a great service-based business based off influx of leads, leaning on our reputation, our brand, and our growth in the local communities, instead of having to spend 30% of my week canvassing, door knocking, going to networking events, etc.
Got it. So that leverage, that the door knocking thing works. We've got clients that do great door knocking, build great companies, but there's not a lot of leverage there. You basically need an army of door knockers. So you mentioned that customer service, that client experience. You guys just hit 1,100 Google reviews with a 4.9 rating. So that's amazing. So proof right there. You guys have built an awesome company. Yeah, Sam, there's a million directions we can go here. You can talk strategy, talk numbers. I know you prepared some things, so I'll just, kind of organically let you take it away. Talk about your approach to marketing. As you know, it's a big gap in the industry. Not a lot of people know how to do it. So talk about your strategy, tactics, whatever you want to go into.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't do it because they're scared, and there's a lot of bad experiences out there, and there's a lot of bad companies. And that's totally fine to feel that way. But I will encourage you that you still have to keep testing the waters consistently if you want to expect it to have a different change. There's a ton of large door knocking companies that are massively successful, and I commend them for that. That is very hard. And I'm very impressed with some of their businesses. For us, I realized very quickly in the early years is I needed to acquire people at a low cost per acquisition because I just didn't have a lot of money. So the marketing budget, I think we had like $3,000 to start with for a month. And I was terrified because if that didn't work, then there would have really kind of would have died before it started. And in the early years, we just leaned on direct mail marketing because I realized it was so cheap for me to get in front of someone's home that it was about at the time, it was about 57 cents per piece of a jumbo mail card sent. And I would target very small areas of town so I could saturate. And I'd send the same mailer with different iterations 4, 5, 6 times. And the calls started just pouring in into these isolated pockets of town. Well, that was an easy way to acquire at a low cost. But as we grow and as we scaled and as we started generating more income and growth in the business, now to this day, we're in about 35 different streams of leads. The majority of the leads, if not almost all of them, are non-shared leads. So I don't believe in like Thumbtack or Home Advisor. And I know that for some people, those work tremendously well. It just doesn't fit my business model the way we design things. I'm very big on not putting all your eggs in one basket, and I apply that to everything. The reason why that is because as you will learn, like Angie's List 6 years ago used to be great. It was an excellent lead source, maybe 7 years ago. Now I wouldn't put any money on it if my life depended on it. That's the whole logic that you need to apply with your business when you're going to market and you're putting money into advertisement or marketing channels. If you're relying dependent upon one solely thing for your business to be successful, if that company that offers you that ability to market went out of business or changed, your business could be on the verge of collapse because of the dependency you relied upon with it, which is why we have so many different marketing channels, so many different advertising channels, and I can pull levers and put more money into certain areas as each one is either respectively doing better, or if one is doing worse, I can reduce those funds and I'm not stuck with just one or two main ways of how we get leads. That's like a super overview from a hot air balloon view per se. But as you start to find what works well for your market, then you can start to invest more into. The only thing you have to be aware of, and I've learned this the hard way, there is a diminishing return of essentially putting too much money into the market in a certain lead stream compared to what is actually accessible for you to receive. So at one point, pay-per-clicks was extraordinary in Houston. I think it sucks now.
Google you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Specifically pay-per-clicks. I think it's absolute trash now. And in the Houston marketplace, because there's 4,000 or 5,000 roofing companies, there's tons of people doing digital marketing now on PPC through Google. But back in the day, we used to dominate it, and leads were cheap. I think we averaged about $138 per lead that called in. And now you'd be lucky if it was $400. But that lead source got ruined. And our diminishing, we talked about ceilings and diminishing returns. At one point in our peak, we were spending $50,000 a month on pay-per-click leads. And we were essentially, I think it was 49% of the impression share of all of Houston and Greater Houston. 6 million people, 49% impression share. But what we realized is we went from this $20,000 budget to a $50,000 budget. And our lead flow picked up, obviously, as we scaled it, but the volume of leads that you would expect to receive for the difference of expenditure was not there. And we were essentially just driving up the price of the market, and the additional leads that we were getting were not offsetting the difference in cost. So you've got to be super aware that if you just pour money in, and you're not monitoring it closely, it's no different than just going to the fireplace and shoveling in money there as well, because you can get out of hand quickly depending on your market size and the demand depending upon the area you're in. So that is something to be super aware of.
Yeah, that's very true. We've been seeing that with Google, and I'm just time stamping this. It's June 2024. Google PPC, across the country, have clients in 30 plus states, and it's changing a lot. We won't go into it now, but yeah, that's something where, if you're working, if you're a roofing company out there, contracting company, you're working with a marketing agency and they're running the Google ads for you. What happens a lot of times, because I used to run an agency, so I can speak on this, and we don't anymore, is, leads will slow down and the agency will be like, oh, all right, well, we're just going to spend more money, right? And they're scaling something that's broken, right? So you're just, like Sam said, you're just shoveling money into the fireplace. And that's because, a lot of agencies, they don't give your account the proper attention that you need. They don't really know. That's just a quick, reaction. Let's just drop more money in so we can hit that lead quota, that quantity quota. Even though those leads do come in, the quality might not be there. So how are you tracking, obviously the quantity, the quality? It's a big challenge.
We're pretty intricate on it. Every single lead source that we have, other than our traditional number that we've had since 73 or 74, is a white labeled number that gets tracked. And we know exactly how many calls we get from every single lead source, whether it be digital or print.
Okay.
So if I send out postcards, every postcard design we send also has a different track number, so I can know exactly the performance of that specific postcard. And we're granular and we're intentional, because if you're not tracking to that level and you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or even $10,000 a year, those dollars that you're spending, you've got to know how you're getting a return on. Otherwise, you're blindly putting money into something and you're hoping that they'll call you. So we track on a monthly basis, a quarterly, and an annual basis, our total lead flow from each respective lead source, the cost associated that we invested into that lead source with any fees or if there's a management fee, whatever it may be. And then we divide it by the total amount of leads that came from that lead source. And then we have an accurate cost per lead that called in. And then we can have an accurate cost per demo, because we track how many homes we go to when we actually present price or product, like a serviceable client that we can actually track. And that allows us to know exactly what we're spending, what our cost is per opportunity. And then, of course, we can reference our closing percentages to know our cost per sale, et cetera.
Got it. Are you using CallRail or something like that?
Yep. Yeah, we use CallRail. We've been using CallRail for probably 6 years, 7 years maybe. I'm sure there's other softwares out there that are better. I like CallRail a lot. I think it works perfectly well. And I'm antiquated with it. We've been doing it for such a long time that I'd hate to have to change everything to a different call center.
Yeah, we're actually doing a webinar with CallRail in 3 weeks.
They're good people.
Yeah, we're excited about it. And that's something that it's not a lot of money to set those things up. It just requires a little bit of just setting up, but it's critical. Yeah, because you don't want to waste your money. And also, when something's working, you want to understand what's working so you can just pump more into it, not blindly, obviously, like Sam said, the Google ads, but pump more into it so you can measure, okay, can we scale this thing? Like you said, different channels are going to perform differently. Some are going to ebb and flow. Sometimes things are going to get harder, like Google and now social media and things like that. So got to be aware of all that stuff. So is there a software, is a spreadsheet that you track all this in, or your CRM, or what do you guys use?
So the CRM gives us loose information, specifically for leads that got put into the system. And we reference that against an Excel that's then created for total inbound calls we tracked from those sources that comes from CallRail. So every call doesn't turn into a lead, and every lead doesn't turn into a demo of product or price. But we have it broken down to those categories so we can know, okay, for example, but we got 100 calls from Home Advisor. And I don't use Home Advisor. And of those 100 calls we got, we only were able to book 10 appointments.
Yep.
Well, some people think that they should value their lead cost of like the calls of like, oh, well, we got 100 calls. This is great. But if only 10 of those people converted to appointments because the rest of it was a bunch of like murky water, not necessary, or like, spam, like that, you only got 10 actual calls, like 10 qualified calls. And people like to base it on the larger number, especially like marketing people, because they want the bosses or the execs to be like, oh yeah, we're getting lots of calls. But the reality is that that's irrelevant. You want to see the qualified calls that actually come in. And that will let you know if a certain lead source is giving you qualified clients or not, because some lead sources may put your information or your mailings, if you're in a magazine, where you might not be in the right service demographics that are ideal for looking for your services. And that's wasted money. And we've been in ads and magazines and brochures and pamphlets of all sorts of lead sources that ended up giving us 0 leads. And it was just exposure. And it was really just, we didn't get anything much from it. And those are things to be critically aware of.
Yeah. What do you say to, a lot of roofing companies, some of our clients are like, hey, I got called by this like local, magazine. We could put our ad into it, or like the Val Pack or things like that. What's your 2 cents on that?
I think Val Pack is interesting to try if you have extra money to spend. I think it's worth doing if you're working in a storm market and you want to target specific zip codes as just a different way of branding yourself. I wouldn't rely on it to give you direct calls. I would rely on it just a way to put your logo and your information to someone a 3rd or 4th or 5th time to make them comfortable with you subconsciously. It's cheap to do that. I think like Into Publishing, magazine groups that are isolated to certain communities or neighborhoods, a lot of them suck. I think very few of them have high quality capacity for your money. I'm going to give you an example. We're in a neighborhood that has about, 3,000 homes in it, and we have a full page ad. It costs me $1,000 a month. Okay, so $12,000 a year. Sounds like a lot of money. I would agree with you at face value. However, if you look at the 3,000 homes, 5% in Houston roughly replace their roof every year. It's 150 people in this community who replace their roof. If I can be in front of 10% of them to see my advertisement, so only 15 people, and I had 5, so 30% call, well, that's 5 opportunities we get to go present. Based off the value of the roofs in this neighborhood, the average roof is about $50,000. So that's $250,000 in opportunity. Divide that by my cost of acquisitions. We should sell 63% of them. We sell 63% of them. I'm selling about three roofs, $150,000. My cost per lead was about 8.5%, which is very high compared to my other lead sources. However, it's giving me affluential leads in a great neighborhood. We always get great referrals. We always get job site leads from those daily jobs, which of course dilute that initial cost over the grand scheme of things. I think in those cases, it makes sense, but I wouldn't spend that same amount of money in the same amount of quantity of homes if the average roof was $12,000, because I'm probably not going to make my way back.
Wow. You guys pause this right now, just and maybe rewind, because what you just said, that's a masterclass. So that's huge. You got to be aware of this stuff, and most people just don't. They're too busy. They don't have the education. They don't have the time. They don't make the time. They don't have the wherewithal to be able to do that. So this is how you got to be thinking about your marketing, because we talk all the time about the spray and pray method. Oh, I'll try this. I'll give this a shot. I'll give that a shot. And you're not really thinking through hey, what are my numbers? You don't even know your close rate. You don't know what your cost per lead target should be, the average home value, and the 5% number. I think that's really interesting. 5%. Is that an estimate? 5% of homeowners will replace a roof, or?
Yeah, so the average roof lifespan in Houston, my market, it's different every market, but in Houston it's 18 to 20 years. Okay. So of course, being a business owner, I always take the conservative number, the 20-year period, not the 18-year period. But every market's different. I think California roofs last longer. DFW, I think the average roof is 8 years. There's Dallas-Fort Worth. There's all sorts of different metrics for every city and state. I'd encourage you to look into the average lifespan of your respective market. And that will help you tremendously understand your market and how many people are actually accessible potential clients on an annual basis.
That's awesome. I love that. And the other part you mentioned there is the affluent neighborhood where the average roof is 50K. And that's an important nugget there because like when you're not doing marketing, you're just kind of waiting for referrals to come in, kind of waiting for whatever happens to come your way. That could be a $50,000 roof. It could also be a $12,000 roof. That's an hour away. That's not really a good use of your time, but you take that job on to keep the guys busy and keep some, revenue coming in. But it's extremely inefficient. It's not very profitable. So when you're doing marketing, then you can target these higher end areas. You can target the areas that are closer to your office or to where your sales reps live. So you're being much more efficient, much more profitable, and just taking more control over the growth of your business and just not leaving it up to chance.
That's correct. 100%. 100%.
Cool. So what else do you guys do? What else you guys got? These are awesome nuggets so far. Like, this is amazing.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm glad you're getting some good value. Well, obviously we do Facebook advertisements thanks to our learning from your course, which has been instrumental. And I think that it's allowed us, obviously we have it slowed down now because our lead flow is like absolutely insane. The past 30 days, we've averaged over 1,200 leads, booked appointments, which is typically we hover around like the 380 to 400 a month.
So 1,200 per month.
Yes. Yeah. We've had a lot of heavy rain right now, a lot of storms, and it's like shot things through the roof. Not hailstorms, but just rain, a ton of rain. Then we had that small kind of like hurricane, if you will, on the north side of town. But the Facebook was something that we started doing and it started getting a lot of great results, not just from direct form fills, but brand awareness, where we're going into people's homes and people called us from a yard sign or a truck wrap or, one of the 35 plus things. And they go, I've also seen your ads a lot on Facebook now. And what a lot of people don't understand is that a consumer, to feel comfortable with the purchasing decision of using you, is way higher of choosing you a chance if they've seen your brand anywhere from 3 to 5 times. Now, the more times they see it, the more comfortable they are subconsciously. So for us, it's like mailers, truck wraps, yard signs, door hangers, and then one of the 30 plus streams and like our philanthropy things we do and our, we sponsor a whole bunch of youth league baseball fields. They have our banners on them. Those are things in like Facebook, being on the ads, just constantly there with content that provides value, not necessarily lead form. Those are the things that allow you to overall drive your total cost per lead down because people are becoming familiar with you through those simple ways. So those are how we do more of a brand awareness per se, from a simple way. Another thing that I find that's super interesting is optimization of Google My Business and local service ads through Google. The Google local service ads has been a tremendous boost of lead flow. It took us a long time to figure it out, but the Google local service ads, I think, is a 100% replacement of PPC without any question. And the leads are significantly better. But a lot of people neglect their Google My Business account, which directly affects their Google local service accounts. And I will say this, that those of you that are unfamiliar with Google My Business or you feel like it's not important, you're hurting yourself and the people that work at your company because so many people in traffic go to your Google My Business. If you're using it properly, it's almost like having a salesman inside someone's home on their computer or their phone. And one of the key things that in 2017, I believe it was, I realized would play a significant importance into the ensuing years was Google reviews. So we didn't ask for Google reviews until 2016 or 17, I believe it was. And we make it a part of our culture and our reward system as a company and all sorts of fun stuff that we do. But Google reviews, believe it or not, is the cheapest form of marketing that you can do because it directly influences your website SEO, your Google My Business rankings, your local search engine on the map packs, and your Google local service ads. So that's the one thing that people don't think about or talk about or invest time into. And it doesn't cost you anything other than asking for it, literally. But I would say that's a major golden nugget that people completely glaze over, don't think is important. And it blows my mind, Joe, like think about this. The companies that are doing 3,000-4,000 projects a year and they have like 50 Google reviews.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like it blows my mind that you would do that much work And either you're not doing raving business to where people want to review you, or you're just not asking. And you're losing out. I mean, for us, our goal is we want to have 20% of people leave a Google review every year. That's what our goal is now. So our goal is to grow by 200 to 300 Google reviews year over year. I think last year we got 270 or 280 reviews. I mean, it's just like, it's part of our culture. Think of it this way. If you're one of these guys that does 3,000 roofing projects a year, and you got 20% of people to leave you Google reviews, which is not hard. That's 600 Google reviews per year. I would be willing to bet you money that in your market, the majority of y'all would have more reviews than any company within 2 years. Like, people call us, and we have recorded calls. Every call is recorded. And people say, I don't care how much your company is or how long I have to wait. I'm 100% using you guys because the reviews speak for themselves.
That's awesome. That's priceless.
It's priceless. And it's free. It's a free lead. Yeah. Truly.
I like that 20% mark. That's realistic, right? I think a lot of people, and myself included, get discouraged, right? Because you want to get a review from everyone. But just think about all the restaurants and businesses that you go to, and I know I go to. I might be in a restaurant with my wife and I'm like, oh, it's amazing. Like, definitely going to leave the review, right? And then you get home and life goes on and you never do it. Yeah.
You forget.
Yeah, so 20% is probably realistic. And we actually never really focused on Google reviews ourselves because we're not a local business, right? So we would focus more on getting video testimonials from our clients. And we did. We did a great job of that. It was honestly only this year, about a couple months ago, when we added number of new Google reviews as a metric to our weekly scorecard in our marketing department, because, obviously skepticism is getting, higher and higher every day in our world. We're growing and we're just in front of so many people, our events, workshops, webinars, clients, mastermind, we're in front of so many people. And it's an awesome way. There's so many other benefits to it too, because it fires up the team, it gets our team excited. We get a review. You're able to take those reviews, you can repurpose them on social media, make little graphics in Canva and get more mileage out of those. And it just creates this like undeniable presence that that's what people want. They want that certainty. And that's why you get those calls, and we get some of them too, thankfully. Like, yeah, I'm not ready yet, but I know what I am. We're going to work together.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I think I'll give you all some ideas of how you can immediately start this. If you're a smaller company and if you're not running your own job sites, you have 2-3 sales guys and you're the owner, just call the people when the job's done the next day. Hey, do we do everything we say we're going to do? Were you happy with our work? Man, we'd love to have a Google review from you. And I guarantee you, about 30% of the people that said they will leave a Google review.
Yeah.
At Amstill, we don't pay for reviews. I don't reward people for giving us a Google review. I don't incentivize them in any way. No discounts, no gift cards, nothing. I want genuine experiences from people willing to go spend 2 minutes of their life. The people I reward is everyone who works here. And we have metrics every month. And if we hit that metric, I'll cater an entire lunch to the entire company. So they're all working to want to get reviews because they all benefit. Now, when I was a smaller company, I used to give my office staff used to be women. Now there's males in there, so they didn't benefit. But it used to be they would all get a mani-pedi paid for by the company.
Okay.
So it would reward the office ladies. Well, now I got guys that work in the office too, so we do lunch for everyone. So it's the office staff and the sales team, everyone inclusive, because we want them to be rewarded and see the importance. And for them, if you have 13, 14 sales guys, 15 salespeople, and if they all get one review each, and then the office staff all get 1 or 2, because we have a system they do to follow up, it works. And the most important thing we do every month is every single Google review we get, we put on a TV at our company meeting, and we read every single one out loud, and everyone whose name's mentioned, every review, they get a round of applause. And it's things like that that get your culture and your company motivated, because whether you want to recognize it or not, the majority of people thrive off being recognized in front of their peers. And what better way to recognize someone and be like, hey, Joe, you got a 5-star review, and we'll read the review out loud so everyone can hear it in the room. And it's like, hey, we're gonna give 2 claps for Joe, and then Joe gets 2 claps, and then we go to the next review. I mean, those are simple things you can do that cost you $0 other than providing lunch, and that's totally worth it. If your team's gonna be super proud, it's gonna cost you a few $100, but they're gonna be so happy.
I love that, man. I'm stealing that, reading reviews out loud in our team meetings every week. We don't do that. We do Slack. So every Google review gets automatically Slacked to our entire team in our Ring the Bell channel. And we'll put emojis there and comments and things like that. So
Yes, that's the cheapest form of marketing.
it is.
Wrap trucks.
And you're right. Like, it's got to be baked into your culture and something you do. It can't just be an afterthought. Yeah, we can go down a rabbit trail on that. But I want to get back to some other types of marketing and what else you guys are doing, what you see working. One thing I did want to ask you about is how do you track, or how do you try to track brand awareness, right? Like, you're doing these little league things, you're doing, Facebook brand awareness ads. It's not like, it's not direct response where you're generating a lead from a single thing. So how do you guys kind of wrap your head around that?
So an easy rule of thumb, or at least what I do, and I probably just made this up myself, honestly, but if you just take your total ad spend of all marketing, and you can allocate 5 to 10% to brand awareness. If you're spending $500,000 a year, you can put $25,000 to $50,000 into brand awareness, whether that be donations to police departments that are local, sports leagues, catering a lunch to the fire department. I mean, just little stuff like that. They're not expensive one-offs, but they add up. I would be very cautious not to go heavy into, we have a great brand. We're very fortunate because of our reputation, and the people that work here do an incredible job at this company. Brand awareness, some people can really overkill it and just dump a lot of money into it. And I think that's okay if you're a massive, like, silverback gorilla company of your area. But you can definitely overkill it and waste a ton of money. And I think you have to be cautious about that. So I would set like 5 to 10% of your total budget. I'm sure other people will tell you it's 80% of their budget that do brand awareness, and 20% is just lead aggregation sources. For me, I'd rather have the leads come in exclusively to us, and then we have brand awareness that sprinkles in bonuses because we get so much referral and repeat business as well. That's just how my business model is, though. It's different for other markets, other areas. But that's personally how we would do it.
Absolutely. It's contextual to every business. You guys have such a solid foundation over the 50 years that maybe you can get away with a little less brand awareness. Maybe newer companies. We were just actually talking with one of our clients this morning in DFW. They've been around a while. Roofing company, obviously Dallas, Texas, big market. 10,000 roofing contractors, whatever. They're running lead gen campaigns right now on social media, not performing great. And we're kind of analyzing what else they're doing, and they just don't have that like foundation of brand awareness. So you're kind of wasting money if you don't have that. So you need to have that first. You guys do, which is awesome. So
yes, young companies have to put more money into brand awareness. You've got to. That's something I haven't been challenged with. My dad had an incredible reputation in the industry. Our brand has always had an incredible reputation for all the 40 plus years before I was here. So I'm not like a brand awareness expert because I've been very blessed of the coattails of our brand name being so strong in households. Even though we weren't a massive revenue company, just people knew us and they knew we did quality work. That's what's given me where I am today, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Just a learning point. That's so true. I'm glad you reinforce that. So a learning point for our audience. We'll bring on a client. It could be a newer company, or it could be a $20 million a year company that's just been door knocking and has no marketing brand awareness. And they try, like I said, lead gen ads on Facebook or Google. You're overspending. You're wasting a lot of money. You're probably not going to get great results. Like, you need that brand awareness foundation. And I hate to say it, it's going to take a little bit longer for you to start generating leads if you're just starting from scratch.
It could take years.
Yeah, years. I know. Most marketing people out there will tell you, no, we get you going, get you leads within 30 days. Yeah, quantity maybe, sure, but not the quality. Like, it does take time. So everyone out there listening and watching, just like start today, do as much as you can within your budget, money budget, your time budget, because it's going to pay off down the road. The compound effect of the daily activity is absolutely huge. Hey guys, want to jump in here real quick to let you know about our Arena Mastermind that Benny Fisher and I run. Sam Stilley is actually a client of Contractor Dynamics. He's inside our Arena Mastermind. And what our Arena Mastermind is, it's a group of selected roofing and contracting company owners. We have a private app, we have a private Facebook group, we have in-person events. We're meeting up throughout the country. And we get together every Wednesday on Zoom at a minimum to talk about some of these things that we're talking about today. How to lead our people, how to delegate and elevate, how to make sure that we are focusing on things that we need to do every single day as an owner, how to build our teams, how to become more profitable, how to expand our businesses with marketing and things like that. So we get together on Zoom, like I said, every Wednesday. There's 20 to 30, sometimes 40 of us on that call, sometimes 10, sometimes 15. And we really help one another level up. Like being in a room like this with guys like Sam, guys like me, guys like some of our other clients who are all building and all focused on building really great companies together. So if you're interested in that, tap the link below, head on over to arenamastermind.co. You can check out all the details over there, and we'd be happy to talk to you about that and see if you're a good fit for our Arena Mastermind. So shifting gears from brand awareness to the lead gen, like what is producing the leads for you guys right now? You said you have like 35 different sources.
Yeah, local service ads, our GMB, like local map pack. And we talked about brand awareness and whatnot. Here's a testimony of that right now our SEO is garbage other than people searching for our company name. And that's about to be fixed substantially. I'm very fortunate about that. But I think like 60% of our web search is from people searching Amstill or Amstill Roofing reviews or Amstill in Houston. But I would say Google local service ads is a massive, probably 25% right now of things. Our Google My Business map pack, local service areas, that's probably going to be another 15 to 20%. And then we're going to have, traditionally, we'll have around 30% previous customers, 10% referrals, and the rest goes into all those different lead categories.
Okay, cool. And who's tracking this stuff? Like we talked about tracking, who's doing it? Is that you?
No, I used to track it, but I have a marketing manager now who tracks it on a granular basis, and he reviews with me on a weekly basis.
All right, so you guys meet weekly to review everything?
Yes.
What does that meeting look like? You're going over the data and whatnot, and then are you guys kind of making adjustments together? Or?
Yeah, so we have a master Excel that does reference data points from previous year's leads from each respective lead category to where we are today. And he knows his goals are to always beat those respectively by like, don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 5% from this month, from last year's respective month is what his like internal goal is at minimum. And we make sure the ad spend is congruent with historical or lessening, not trending upward. And if it is trending upward, why is that? We look at impression share, we look at overall total growth, and we look at leads broken down by category as well. So repairs, insurance inspections, or retail replacements.
All right, fantastic, cool.
So if you're growing into wanting to become a lead-based business, or if you want to get lead-based flow to your company, it's super important you track a few metrics. The first thing is your cost per lead coming from that source. The second thing you need to track is of that source, the leads that you run, what percentage do you demo? We learned this from Rodney Webb, full disclosure. A demo in his world is you're there for an hour or greater, or you pitched product or price. If it's anything other than that, you didn't demo. So with us right now from the storm, historically we demoed about 84% of our appointments we went on. Right now we're at 76%. And that's because we go to a lot of homes. There's no damage. We don't need to demo anything. It's just the roof's fine. If I know my cost per lead and I know the percentage I'm demoing, I take the cost per lead, divide it by the percentage I'm demoing, and that's how much it costs me to present in that home. Then I reference it against the category of my average sell price of a repair, replacement, or insurance claim. Then I know my cost percentage of my average contract price. I can take my closing number. So here, I'll just give you some hard numbers. So like we go pitch a repair and we're going to close roughly about 80% repair appointments that we pitch on. I know that if I pitch a repair, it's going to cost me on average when I sell that repair a $296 cost per repair sale. Our average repair is about $2,800 to $3,000. So it's about a 10% cost per repair, which is pretty low in comparison because I know a lot of people sell lesser scopes of repairs. So they have like maybe an $800 repair ticket. Well, you're eating your own lunch at that point because $300 of it is cost for just the lead. Our average replacement costs about $400 to sell, and our average insurance costs about $295, $300 per sale. If you know those numbers, you can move your metrics and then you hire people to fit your lead flow that you want to handle. But you've got to know how much your average cost per lead is, what it costs you to demo, what it costs you to close that deal in each respective category. The worst thing you can do is be lazy and lump them all into one category and just one average, and you'll really regret it. Just spend the extra 5 minutes to break them into their respective categories. And if you don't have a way of doing that currently, do it moving forward so that you can look at things and objectively make decisions on, like, let's say a lead source only gave you repair leads and you average that with the rest of your other lead sources. Well, if your cost per lead was so high that it might sound like, great, I'm getting 20 repairs a month. They're only repairs, but they cost you $400 and your average repair costs you $800 you sell. It's not worth it. You're losing money, I guarantee you, at the end of the day on that repair. If you want to get more granular, then you take what we just talked about and you apply it to each lead source to get an ROI, which is obviously high level, or not high level, standard level. Everyone understands that. Here's the difference though. A lot of companies will give you an ROI based off your revenue of that lead source, which I hate because it's worthless to me. I want an ROI based off my profitability, my net profitability from that lead source, because the whole goal as an owner of a business is essentially you're taking your profits and you're rolling it back in to grow your business. Well, if you're getting a dollar for dollar value, okay, sure. But people tell you you're getting a 20 times ROI. They're basing it, hey, we're going to give you a lead for $100. You're going to sell it for $20,000. Like you got, this crazy, or $1,000 and you sold it for $20,000, you got 20 times ROI. Well, if your gross profit of that job is only $3,000, you only got a 3 times ROI. So you've got to track your ROI based off your profitability per lead source. And that's how you're going to realize if you have dogs or you got cows for good lead sources. Super important. Super important.
Yeah, it is. Marketing talk of like, yeah, you spend, 10,000, we get you 100,000 in revenue. And like on the surface, it sounds sexy, but it's probably a break-even proposition right there. It's not necessarily it's not always a bad thing. Let me put it that way. Because you mentioned before, if you know that you're getting into a neighborhood, you're getting referrals, you're getting some of those neighbors, then those are other factors that you have to consider as well. But you just got to be aware of that.
Yeah, it's just, if you're doing a blanket approach, that's the key. If it's isolated, specific, you can control your variables, your average roof cost, makes sense. But if it's a blanketed approach, you've got to make sure you're tracking your gross profitability overall from that lead source. You get the revenue numbers, it's sexy, you're not tracking your profit, you're not protecting your margins, then you end up spending too much and you're hurting yourself long term.
Yeah, I think probably everyone can speak from experience. I know I can, where, revenue looks really good.
Yes.
And you get the numbers and you're like, man, we didn't actually make any profit. So we need to fix some things there.
We sold this $300,000 job. There's $20 profit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Most business owners just don't know that, but that's another financial kind of conversation there. Like, how do you guys put together? I know you have a lot of historical data right now. So, not everyone might be able to resonate with an answer here, but like, how do you guys put together a marketing budget?
Okay. So the most basic rule of thumb is if you want to be aggressive, you spend 10% of your revenue forecast. Most aggressive rule of thumb. I'm sure some people do 15% or 20%, depending on the industry. But so if you want to do $20 million, $2 million is what you should spend. Okay. For us, how we grew the business is every year we were growing 30 to 35% year over year growth. We were just moving the metrics on a 5% base variable was what our goal was.
Okay.
Right now, we'll do $20 million this year, and our advertisement spend should account for 3.5%. That is very conservative and much less than what others would do to keep kind of like smashing on the gas. But I've never been that type of growth driver where I'm trying to push my business to the seams constantly. I want us to grow naturally, conservatively, without having issues with homeowners. And it's inevitable you're going to have people upset, but like lessen the likelihood. Quality can be maintained to where I'm not having an issue long-term down the road, and I'm not having to hire people quickly that are going to damper or lessen the quality of the brand that we work for. So 3.5% is what I target. 5% if I want to be aggressive, but 3.5% is what we'll finish at this year. And that's comfortable. It's not stretching anything crazy. We sell at proper, healthy margins, but it's, some guys I know do 10, 12%, and that's scary if you're not tracking your numbers. You don't have healthy closing percentages and healthy gross profit. It can really hurt your business and its profitability.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's, you guys have 1,100 reviews at 4.9 rating. So that's That's why you're not looking to like 10x every year, right? The
Yeah,
companies that are
exactly.
the ones that get in trouble with that. I'm the same way, man. I can't sleep at night if I feel are growing too fast, and when I feel
I get
like,
too much anxiety. Like
yeah, yeah,
lawsuit potentials. I mean, litigate. I mean, just it's just not worth it. You know, there is something interesting. The companies that scale that quick, if they do have a lot of reviews, it's typically like in the high threes or low fours, is what I've noticed. My brand is so important to me and my last name that I don't want to be associated with an 83% type company. Yeah, the way we look at 4.9 is we're 98%. Like I'm
yeah,
happy with that. I would like
yeah.
to be 99, but Google doesn't get it. But I don't want to be an 80% guy. That's
100%. Yeah. I mean, that gap, that delta between 98% and 80%, that's like a multi-million dollar gap right there, probably a couple million a year. So that's huge. Yeah, I will say, like, the companies that we've seen it, the clients that come in us and they don't really usually know what they're spending until we kind of go through that with them at the beginning. All right, Sam, tell me what you guys are doing. Oh, we're doing this for $3,000 here. Oh, this other guy's doing this for $2,000 a month. And before you know it, it adds up to where they're spending over 10%. And what most companies are doing are they're just throwing money at it, just trying to buy their way out of their marketing problem. And what Quick Solutions, they're not putting any time into it. They're not having these weekly meetings. They're not tracking these things. They're not educating themselves like you've been doing for many years. So I will say, like, 3.5%, 5% might sound low, right? But the caveat is that you've got to be investing time into it and not just money. Whereas most of the roofing industry just wants to throw money at it. Worked, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. That does not work today. And we just see that like over and over. That's probably one of the biggest mistakes.
put this in like just simple perspective. For those of you out there that are listening, like, oh, you're like 3.5%, 20 minutes, $700,000. That's a ton of money. Yeah, it is for our size. But think if you're $1 million guy right now. You work by yourself and you generate $1 million just because people know you. Like you're the roofer in the area. You can afford to put $30,000 and grow another $1 million of revenue very easily. Like at that scale and that size. Or if you're a $5 million business, $150,000 in ad spend or lead spend is really not that much if it's being used effectively. It's just people, like you hit the nail on the head, Joe. People don't spend their money accurately and they just keep throwing it into this fire, that fire, that fire. And they're expecting these leads to just roll over like crazy all into their business. And it doesn't work that way. And it's sad because you've earned that money. Like you worked your ass off to get that money and then you're just throwing it away. So just take your time. It's totally okay. My dad, the reason probably why we've grown slower too is because my dad is very conservative. And now he's totally fine with everything. I guess the proof is in the pudding. But the first like 3 or 4 years, it was like pulling teeth to spend more money. He would always tell me this, and I'll share this with y'all, is he would say, Sam, he would say two things. He's like, Rome wasn't built overnight, and an elephant can only be eaten one bite at a time. And I will honestly say that for the rest of my life, my growth approaches for things will always keep that in mind because it's not worth blowing off the doors to be crazy explosive 1 year and absolutely collapsing the internal side of your business. And I'd much rather have a slow, that's just me personally. Some guys are the exact opposite, and that's totally cool. But those two things have resonated with me my entire life since, and I understand them truly now.
Yeah, it's funny how our parents get smarter the older we get, right? Like we don't understand those. Like I grew up working for my dad in our family's construction business as well, and like very conservative. Their company is 130 years old, like so they're doing something right. And it was frustrating at times when I was younger, in my 20s, and now I'm a little bit older. I'm like, oh yeah, shoot, he was right.
Yeah, they're right.
Damn
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Funny how that
100%.
works. Yeah. All right, Sam, man, this is awesome. We got to wrap up here, but anything else you want to share with our audience before we kind of sign off?
Man, I would say for those of you that are listening to this that are worried your market doesn't work with marketing or you're in a small town and people don't do this stuff, try it. Be consistent with it for a year. Either follow Joe's program or link up with something you feel aligns with your local marketplace and just try it for a year and really pay attention to it and do either the things I suggested or your own version so you can track it the way you need to. And you'd be surprised with the results you may get. And I would recommend everyone deserves to take that bet on themselves instead of worrying about having to knock on doors. And I would encourage you to use knocking on doors as a bonus to your revenue, not as a dependency for your revenue.
Love that. Perfect way to wrap it up. Yeah. try it. Marketing works. Okay. So if you have not figured out how to get it to work for your company, guys, your company is not unique as much as you think it is. Your market's not unique.
Yeah.
It's every market might be a little bit different. There's a little context everywhere, but it works. You just got to figure out the formula. So like, Sam said, get with the right people, learn from others, educate yourself. Because the ROI of marketing and branding is unlimited. It opens up so many opportunities. So man, Sam, once again, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you sharing your expertise. I've taken notes. I've learned a couple of things. You inspire me. So I appreciate you a lot, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. And I hope that someone else gets something good from it too. And maybe it changes someone's life in a better way. So, and hopefully the review thing works out for you and your team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I almost forgot about that. There's an episode within an episode right here. So
there you go, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on here.
All right. Talk to you soon.
See ya.